Hi, I'm Dominic Percari. I wrote and directed Beyond the Lake, and this is The Breakdown. Next up, the magic words.
Abracadabra! Abracadabra!
So this was my junior thesis film, which is the story of how J.K. Rowling was inspired to write the Harry Potter franchise. The screenplay has this taking place on a train, and I remember one of the writing teachers said, like, okay, so maybe you can do some like green screen stuff, or see if you can find like an old trolley car to film in. And I just said, well, no, we'll build the train. Like, it's got to be period accurate. It's got to be, you know, something we can shoot around and shoot in. And he said, you're never ever gonna make that. You're gonna blow all your money. I think he even tried to fail me because he thought that I was just like not listening to him, which to be fair, I wasn't, but I also knew we could do it. So everything you're seeing here is the train that I designed and that we built in under a month for, I think, $3,000. So you have working electricity. All the walls actually, you could like pull them up and slide them off and open up any side of the train so that we could, you know, have longer camera angles come through, and that was very important. Also, the entire set actually rocked back and forth so that you could mimic the feeling of being on a train, which I thought was one of the things that we did really well with this film. So this hallway you're seeing is 50 feet long by 4 feet wide by, I think, maybe 12 and a half feet tall. This curved ceiling was an absolute nightmare to put up. All working lights, working doors. Good bit of detail too for the time we had. This is all baseboard. And I remember the first time we flicked the lights on and we saw it on camera on our camera test weekend, I was just like, wow, because I was so excited that it looked so cool. And that's when LK, our sound guy who was also on Heist Games, said in his classic voice, he's like, that's the same sound that Dominic made when we threw him through a table last year. I was like, yes it is, LK, yes it is. I love film.
Smoke. Black smoke that creeps in and eats all your good feelings and makes your brain feel empty. You never see it coming. Always there.
The original plan was to use rear projection for this window. Rear projection is an older film technique that was used before green screens came onto the scene, where an actor performs in front of a screen onto which is projected a video of the desired background. We liked this approach because it meant we'd get the final result in camera. Unfortunately, when we did our camera tests, it just wasn't working. We couldn't do green screen either because I usually cast like a green light on the actor, so that's actually all me and Joey, the editor, rotoscoping out the window, manually cutting stuff out, then tracking footage onto there, some dirty window texture. It was a lot of work to do. Going through the tunnel. This is actually a lot easier than you would think, as we literally just had a black sheet anchored on the top, bottom, and middle. The other end was attached to a broom pole, and then we just had, I think it was a production assistant, run past the window with the thing and drape this black curtain over the light. So again, we wanted it to look like the train was moving, and you know, there's telephone poles and trees, so we had the shadow flags. And this was probably the most important position on set. At all times when we were filming, there'd be a couple like PAs in front of the big 2,000 watt lights with either a piece of wood or a big flag, and they would just wave it in front of the light to make those tiny, very subtle shadows on the actor's face, which seems ridiculous, but it goes a long way towards making you really feel like you are on a train, which I thought was one of the things that we did really well with this film. So this is a really cool ghost effect, and what's crazy is that it's actually 100% practical. There's no CGI or digital effects involved. And it's actually fairly simple too. The way this is done is that we have our foreground here, and then the wall behind the window, and then in the midground, it's not Karen Baum, who's the actress playing Joanne's mother, but there's actually a big glass door here that is set up at a 45-degree angle. And then Karen, the actress, is actually standing way over here against another wall, and she's facing this way. So Karen's standing over there, and we have another 12,000 watt light right here. Now, once you have all those things in place, you take great care lining up your camera so that the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection match, so that if this were a mirror, we would be filming right towards Karen. Now, everything's black, so there's nothing to reflect, but as soon as you turn this light on, there's actually something to reflect back. It gives a very cool, opaque but visible effect. We kind of tested this out for our camera tests and had Cheez-Its at the same time. If you were there in real life, it's shocking how real the ghost looked. In fact, it was so real that the first time Molly saw it, you could tell there was a legitimate spark of like surprise in her eyes. hallway sequence, one of my favorites. This shot is actually really interesting because we're actually not in the cabin here. The cabin and the hallway were two separate sets. Again, all the cabin walls came off. I wanted to start in the cabin and go out through and into the hall in one continuous take, just to give you a sense of the scale of this place, and also the geography, give you a sense of kind of where this cabin is. So what we actually did is we took the one wall, the door wall of the train cabin, and then leaned it against the wall of the train set, and we lined up the doors. And then our AC Elliott just kind of took two of those sconces that we had lying around, put them on two C-stands, and put them next to Joanne so that the light kind of matched. You can see the reflections on the walls here, kind of just, you know, simulate the light that would be there in real life. Put a kind of big softbox above her to mimic the light that was coming in the window. If you look really close, you can see those lights reflected in her eyes. You can see the softbox we had mimicking the window and the two sconcelets, so it's a really cool kind of eye light catch. The transition was pretty seamless, all things considered.
Excuse me,
So we did a lot of wall building on the magic words. For this sequence where we knew we wanted to have Joanne open a door, but then it's this kind of scarring scene from her past, we built this section of train wall that we could take with us to all those other locations. This kind of section right here of the hall door, and then we would set up the wall and then have Joanne stand in an actual door, light it as best we could to match the train, and then look out on the real scene. And this shot is just a great testament to why we did all this work, because you can really just see how well the light matches. You got this very soft glow and slight halation on the top of Molly's head. The only special effects or comping that's happening here is just putting Molly on this chair when she is here. We got a cool reveal wipe here where crying lady in the hallway appears, and then we have that light turn on. We got a clean plate, which is just the blank background with no characters. And then we put Sophia in the back and then Molly in the front. I took just a patch of the clean plate and I put it over the area where Sophia would be. And then as Molly walks across the frame, I had her be her own moving mask that would essentially erase the mask that was hiding Sophia, so that when we get to the end of the shot, boop, there she is.
Joe,
She's in a better place.
we're here for you. If there's anything you need, she loves you, Joe.
I'm so sorry. She was beautiful. We'll be okay. I'm sorry. She's in a better place.
A really cool shot that unfortunately goes by without you really noticing it. So the idea being that Joanne's having a bit of a hallucination. All the doors on this train are filled with awful memories from her past. And when we first enter the hallway, we can clearly see that there's 4 doors, but now she looks back, and if you look closely, you can actually see there's an infinite hallway, of the hallway of nightmares as it is, as far as the eye can see. You can also see the doors actually opening up by themselves. If you look very closely right there, that's almost like she's being chased now by the memories. They're breaking out of all the places she tried to compartmentalize them, you know. That right there is actually practical smoke as well. We just took a fogger and then had essentially it spray through a big canister of dry ice, and the dry ice cools the smoke down so that it doesn't rise and it kind of spills onto the floor. And it ended up being, some really cool practical black smoke, which the smoke really is a character, which we'll get into in a second.
I shall vanquish the Scariotis and banish all the monsters forever and avenge your mother's death.
This is not a polygame.
I was just trying to help.
But you can't help me!
One thing you gotta know about me as a filmmaker is that I work a reference to the Toy Story trilogy into every movie I make. So this moment right here where Joanne yells,
You can't help me!
I just kept on telling her, you know that part where Woody yells at Buzz into the truck?
You are a toy!
That was the only direction I gave her. So the thick black smoke was always an element in the script from the very beginning, and coming up with ways to put that on screen with a limited budget and a much more limited skill set was always a question from the beginning of how are we going to do that. It finally hit me, what if we treat the smoke like the alien venom in Spider-Man 3? And I know what you're thinking, Spider-Man 3 is a flawless movie, and to that I say you're absolutely right. And so treating it like that, making it almost more of a POV, let us circumvent the need to have to manipulate the smoke a lot, because that's something we really couldn't do. So essentially we had to have the smoke culminate into its final form. Just being able to give that smoke the shape of somebody getting up was super important, and somehow pulled it off. But again, just being able to hide from that with the POV aspect was definitely a godsend. So thank you, Sam Raimi. The voice of the smoke or the voice of the Dementors, this whispering, there's actually a hidden message if you listen to it played backwards. This shot's kind of funny because Karen's eyes were actually open the whole time, but I thought the scene worked better if it started out with her sleeping, so I digitally closed her eyes.
The ones that love us never truly leave us.
Great use of camera to highlight a character revelation moment. And then this shot right here is a great example of how being able to remove those walls really helped us, because I wanted to start in a close-up and then pull back to reveal the train as empty and smokeless. So we had that camera super tight, and we pulled it back a good like 40 feet to finally reveal the entire breadth of the cabin.
Thank you, Harry.
Oh yeah, you gotta look really close to see it, but the picture actually smiles at Joanne after she gives it one last look. You can see that lip move up, and that's kind of our nod to how the moving pictures came about in the Harry Potter universe.
Harry Potter was a highly unusual boy in many ways. He also happened to be a wizard.
Originally, the scene was supposed to be set against the golden sun, but by the time we actually got stuff set up, the sun was gone. So I said, all right, let's pivot and have this take place at night. I wanted to get that same feeling as you got at the end of the first trailer for Man of Steel, where you're not really sure what movie it is, but that last frame, you see just the foundations of, and it cuts. I wanted to do that same thing here too, and I think it worked really well. First and last frames of a movie are a great opportunity to visualize the journey a character has taken. In the magic words, the first frame is a discarded story idea, and the last frame is Harry Potter, summing up the journey Joanne has made. But there's a more subtle journey taken in the first and last blocking we see. In the film, Joanne struggles to escape her past and feels like it's dragging her backwards. We see this reflected visually in Joanne's orientation throughout the film. By sitting on this side of the cabin, she's constantly moving backwards. At the end of the film, however, when she's solved the riddle and found hope, she switches to this side of the cabin, and for the first time, we see her starting to move forwards. And thus begins one of the greatest literary franchises of all time.